In my opinion, this is probably the best Corvette ever made, and it kind of sucks because it's kind of becoming forgotten about. Let's get into it. Well, I already filmed this video in the garage, and the audio didn't work, so thanks GoPro for being a piece of shit. So yeah, that's why I'm filming here in my living room, in my auxiliary desk next to my Christmas tree. Hello, Christmas tree. Oh, today was kind of cool. We had a Secret Santa at work, and a lady in my office got me a little Mini Cooper desk item, but it's a little thumb drive. How cool is that? Thanks, Danielle. So in case you haven't already figured out which Corvette I'm talking about, that would be the C6 ZR1. Now, in many ways, this is my dream Corvette, but also very attainable. Now that the hype of the C8 is kind of diminishing and they've bloated the resale value so much, it's almost laughable. They went twice over MSRP. Like, get out of here. It gave me kind of time to reflect that maybe the C8's not mystical creature. You know, it's a great car, don't get me wrong, but I'm not about to spend $100K for a $60,000 car. You about lost your mind if you think I'm going to do that. I'm sure down the road I will get one, and it is still a really nice car. So let's go ahead and talk about the C6 ZR1 today. And also keep in mind that just because I'm saying the C6 ZR1 is the epitome, the apex, the be-all, end-all Corvette for me, that doesn't mean your Corvette's garbage. There's no such thing as a bad Corvette. I just happen to really like the C6 ZR1. I mean, hell, I own a C5 Z06. I love the car, but given the choice, I would take a C6 ZR1 all day. The C6 ZR1 is incredibly special to me. I remember them talking about it in 2007, and as a Blue Devil, that was like the project name, if I'm not mistaken. And then they introduced it in 2008 as a 2009 model, and the specs on the thing just blew my mind. If you're not familiar with the ZR1, this Corvette is all business all the time. This is the third incarnation. They had a C3, a C4, and a C6 as a ZR1. But this one was the first one that was just like, holy shit. And if you're not a Corvette person, it could easily be mistaken as any other C6 Corvette. And for making a ZR1, the formula was simple enough, but it worked damn well. So they took the already incredible C6 Z06 and turned it up to 11, if you will, and made just this incredibly crazy supercar. And I'll call it a supercar. Some are like, it's a supercar, it's Corvette are supercars. It's a supercar to me, and you can debate me all you want. So they pretty much took a pretty big blower, strapped it on a LS motor, sprinkled in a few more goodies, which we'll get to in a minute, and called it a day. I believe the blower is like 2.3 liter, which is bigger than my Mini Cooper engine by quite a bit, which is pretty nuts. The blower itself. Now you're probably asking, what about the C7 Z06 and Z01 respectively? Awesome cars. However, the Z06 out of the box, they turn it up to like 13 right away. They just went for it, and I think it goes a little too much. And then the ZR1 is an incredible car, but it's a one model year. It's kind of hard to, it's not exactly attainable, and they're still very expensive. A good example is still running about $120,000 if you're lucky. And the Z06 and Z01 C7s, it's a good recipe to kill yourself if you don't know what you're doing. They can be a handful, and they're kind of hard to use all the power. The C6 ZR1, however, weighed substantially less. The power was still there. I feel like it was managed a little better, and it just, to me, feels like a better track weapon. The C6 ZR1, it was just an overall incredibly balanced platform. And to quote Doug DeMiro, you pretty much got Ferrari Enzo performance for a tenth of the price, which is pretty incredible, even by today's standards. And although they made these for 5 model years, you don't see them very often. I think on the road, I've seen maybe 2. I've seen a handful of car meets, etc. But they are pretty exclusive, and that's pretty damn cool. And the only real way to tell the difference between a ZR1 and a Z06, Grand Sport, etc. is there's some miscellaneous badging around the car. The front fenders have very jet fighter inspired intakes on them. It's pretty cool. Even though on the Corvette it's used more of like an exhaust for cooling, but nonetheless it's still pretty damn cool. And then on the hood you had a little cover that shows the blower, which is pretty cool. It's controversial, but this thing stock came with carbon ceramic brakes back in 2009, which is, even today, you don't see that very often. And it's pretty incredible. Again, it's kind of another supercar-esque thing, if you will. And the engine was relatively simple. It was the LS pushrod variant. They labeled it the LS9, at 638 brake horsepower and 602 pound-feet of torque. Top speeds claimed by GM were about 205 miles an hour. Some publications have rated it at 208. However, in real-world testing on the Autobahn, I believe they've got it up to about 194. But given its horsepower to weight ratio, I don't see why it can't get over 200 miles an hour in stock form. I think it's very attainable. And this thing is just filled with carbon fiber. Both exposed and painted from the hood to the fenders to the roof, rocker moldings, and front splitter as well. And the rims on this thing are also kind of controversial, but I love the C6 ZR1 rims, the multi-spoke. I think it's a nightmare to clean, but I think it looks amazing. It fits the car so damn well. My cat's trying to climb the Christmas tree. Hey, go. Hey! And at the time, it had the biggest rims ever offered on a Corvette. 20s in the rear, 19s up front, and even by today's standards, they're huge rims for a sports car. And you know, all the other stuff that came with your basic Z51 package, if you will, the mag, ride control, the very specific proprietary aero, etc., etc. Not sure if I mentioned the weight, but this thing only weighed about 3,500 pounds, so not a lot for its horsepower. In comparison, you know, you take the Hellcat, which has a lot of horsepower, 700 and some change, but that thing weighs much as a dump truck, you know. The thing's pushing almost 5,000 pounds. Yeah, it's a huge brick. This thing would easily do 1.1 Gs on the skid pad, which even today's standards, it is incredible. Anything over a G is amazing. This thing was doing 1.1 out of the box with ease. Quarter mile was attainable in just over 11 seconds. 0 to 60, 3.3 seconds, which is still very fast by today's standards. Most of that was wheel spin. It was just so much power. Even though it was so balanced, it was just hard to overcome that. Hence why they went eventually to mid-engine. But I mean, a couple bolt-ons and you get this thing in the 10s all day. You know, stick to your tires and a smaller pulley for your blower, and you're all set. Now there are a few things about the ZR1, the C6, I'm not a huge fan of. That is the fact that they put a parts bin Cobalt steering wheel stock from the factory. 2012 and 13 saw a little better wheel, but nonetheless it was pretty much the same wheel. And the seats were just garbage. Even the 12 and 13 seats, better, but did not match the car, if that makes sense. And both of those things have been very controversial over the years. And also the fact, if you want to keep it totally OE and replace the ceramic brakes every 20,000 miles, you're gonna spend roughly $10,000 to do all 4 corners. They're not cheap. The prices have come down, but they're still very, very expensive. And to be honest, I'd probably replace it with steel. Probably gonna get a lot of shit for that comment. So yeah, if I ever obtained one in the future, the steering wheel, I would have to replace it with a flat bottom carbon, similar to the one I have in my Z06. And the seats, proper seats, not Amazon specials for my C5, like real proper, probably a few $1,000 seats to really finish it off. Yeah, then the car would be pretty much complete. I mean, other than that, the car is pretty damn amazing. I would never use its full potential, 630 horsepower. I'll be honest, it's more than enough. Car sounds amazing from the factory. Even the headers are pretty damn good, if I'm not mistaken. The car, geez, it's crazy to think the car came out 11 years ago. But it was so ahead of its time. It's an awesome track weapon, both in a straight line and around twisties. Nothing can compete with it performance price-wise, nothing out there. The closest thing is a Porsche, but you have to get the highest trimmed Porsche out there, and you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to compete with this car that you can get now for $55,000, and that's pretty damn cool. And also the fact that it was truly driver focused and race inspired and only came with a standard transmission. I'm not saying if you don't have a standard you're not cool, it's just they knew who they were selling it to and who would buy it, and I like that. I think on the C7 they kind of lost some of that mystique by going automatic on their higher trims. Not a bad thing, it's just, you know, it's a torque converter. It's always gonna be kind of slow. I do like the new dual clutch in the C8, don't get me wrong, that's pretty damn cool. I still have not had the privilege of driving a C8, hopefully soon. I've seen a lot up close and stuff, gorgeous cars, but right now, if I had to buy a Corvette, it'd probably be a C6 ZR1, just an amazing car. And I do think those will be collectors in the future. I know Corvette people are always like, well, is it gonna be a collector? I think this one will be. It's just overall a gorgeous car. And if I got one, it would have to be that light blue. The same one on the Blue Devil. I forget the name of it. But it's an awesome color. But anyways guys, that's my quick little rant about the C6 ZR1 and why it's my favorite Corvette. just an all business purpose-built car that just perfectly balanced, and they didn't go overboard like the C7 in my opinion. So hope you guys found this entertaining at least. And busy week for me, a lot of stuff going on, but I'll try to get an update to my C5 Z06 door and fender install. You guys really like the sound editing video, so I'll get that out as soon as I can to you guys. And it's Christmas week, so hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll catch you guys in the near future. Later.